Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. And today we get to do one of my favourite things so far, which is go through the patch notes and see what we can see coming to our lovely game of Moonbreaker. So, in this patch we've got Astra's story update. So we've already got the story for Extilior, we've then got Zax shortly afterwards. This is the Astra story, and this is the third of the three stories we should be expecting before the next major patch. And from what I understand, the next time the major patch should come, it will be the story introducing that captain, and then the two remaining stories are going to be ones that sort of continue the general narrative. So that should be the format that the story and the audio dramas will follow from that point. So I'm excited to listen to Astra's story. The first two were great, and hopefully we'll be able to sort of give that a bit of a listen. Then we've got here, and so I'm not going to go through all of the individual details here, but we're happy to now announce that second contact patch, Astra Story, is now live on Steam. Got a little picture here. Dive into the Reaches, listen to the third episode of Tales from the Reaches audio drama. The Edge of Your Seat gripping episode will be available in-game or on your favourite podcast platform. So this here is a little video showing us the two new maps. One was the Cholek map we had previously, this one here, and this is the new excavation map, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about that a little later on, because I think it's a very interesting change to the game, more so than I thought it would be just from a map change perspective. So stay tuned and I'll be talking about it a little bit later on. So we'll be able to traverse to an all-new Cholek excavation site map, a glittering map presenting new challenges and more backstory. And here's one of the interesting parts as well, actually. While digging for Cinder, a team of smugglers discovered a huge, magnificent stone head statues made by the Cholek. Their eyes are beautiful, polished purple gemstone of unknown name and value. So, really keen for that. We've got share paint jobs, which we'll come into again a little bit later on. And so this is showing you here, you can export your creations across. We've got the roster tab button, we've got some new splash screens, and I've gone through and I've collated all of these together to try and make sort of an interesting little sort of document to run through it all individually. So these are one-time tutorials. This is the second wind assist, so as introduced previously, and what they've mentioned is they're going to be keeping an eye on it from a balance perspective. Honestly, it's working way better than I thought it would. I was really concerned that 2 Cinder every other turn was going to be a massive advantage, but the way the games have played out, it's been absolutely fine. It really does seem to mitigate the disadvantage of having less board pressure, that sort of thing, having access to your assists one turn after your opponent does. Really impressive. And then we've got a few bug fixes and things down here. Now, the actual notes themselves. This is what we're going to be running through. So, Cholek excavation site, in-game support to share your paint jobs via social media, and more specific messaging on the victory screen to communicate the conditions for wins and losses, i.e. victory concede, etc. Implemented a toggle so you can mute or unmute audio on loss of focus. I've already checked that box, so now if I alt-tab, the audio stays playing through Moonbreaker, just like it used to. I love that change, really happy with that. Improved and relocated create roster button, added correct battle music to Cholek maps, so we need to check that out at some point. It'll probably just be in a normal video, not in this one, but that's an interesting change. Added new intro scenes to various modes for first time players, and let us know what you think. I'll absolutely be looking through all of those. I found 5 so far. Not sure if there's more, that maybe I've missed something, but 5 seems to be the right ones for me so far. And lots of bug fixes, including the medical recall bug. It's been plaguing the Discord, the medical recall bug, sometimes just freezing the game for some people. So really glad that that's going to be gone. And then here we've got a few different things as well, some of which we'll be looking at as in addition. So support for future gameplay changes. I've already heard from people on the Discord, some people think that a couple of changes might have actually been implemented sort of without mentioning it. Some people have said that they feel like the character's movement is now no longer the same as it used to be. So it might be that the speed stat that was being discussed in the dev vlog recently, so each character having a different speed and being able to adjust that sort of individually rather than normal, fast and slow, it seems like that might now be a little bit more likely to be sort of coming into play. From what people have said, some people said that Maximus feels slower and that Extilior feels faster. Not sure if that's definitely the case, but that's something I've heard so far. We've mentioned Second Wind. Poison damage is a fix for Cargo Run, so Furia will no longer damage herself down to 1 HP when her passive triggers, and it only applies to rivals now, which is probably sensible. Now, Beatrice's spear damage and the Tipu not growing for every attack versus Broken Vengeance, I've clarified how these work, and we'll be looking at that in a little bit later at the end of the video to just make sure things are working how I'd like them to. I can give you a hint that they are, but we'll go into a little bit of detail as to exactly how that is to make sure you understand those interactions. They're some of my favourite interactions in the game, so keep an eye out for that as well. Fixed issues where actions would sometimes appear interactable but not perform anything, so this was often when you clicked on and off of a unit or did multiple commands in quick succession. Fixed an issue where units that took damage on turn start trigger were not valid plink targets. So this is going to mean that Axel Pyro, when you burn someone, you can now plink them as well, or even things like orbital bombardment didn't sometimes do it either. So that's a great change, makes things function a little bit more as intended. And then fixed stat changes again for cargo run. So Tipu's growth or armor plates being picked up now properly count as a health change and allowing you to plink that target. So if you attack a Tipu or Tipu attacks your own one, you can now plink it either way. So that's a really good change to make things a little bit more clear. So what we're going to do from this point is we're going to jump into a little sort of selection of the changes that I've put together so we can have a look at them in action. Okay, so here we are looking at, first of all, the splash screens. So what I've done is I've put together a few different things together, out of the changes in an order that makes sense to me. So first we're going to start with the collection screen. So as you can see here, the first time you log into the collection screen, you get a little bit of information about units, a little bit of information about rosters. Great change. These are all making the game a little bit more beginner friendly, and I think that's really something that's needed, just to ease that transition. So this is now the new roster screen, and as you can see at the top left, there's a very obvious big button as to how to make a new roster. I think that's a great change. It maybe could do with saying new roster, but I don't think anyone's going to misinterpret that. I think it's pretty straightforward. We've now got it in a much more clear way. Before, it was sort of at the top near where the sort button was, and we've actually now got a sort button as well. So I haven't looked into what the options are on it, but having the ability to sort your rosters is so good to me. I'm assuming we've probably got alphabetical or something like that, so hopefully we'll be able to have a few different options to help us navigate the rosters a little bit better, especially when you're getting to as many as I have. I've gone through and deleted every roster in my selection at least twice, and I've still got pages and pages of them stacked up because I don't necessarily want to get rid of them all quite yet. So another great change. Really, this seems to be like very much a quality of life update, and I'm absolutely sold on it. This has been a really good change. Not everything needs to be a big balance change. This is about making the game function better, feel smoother, feel more polished. Really happy with it so far. So here's the splash screen for roster creation. It gives you just a little bit of idea of how it works, which is great. Makes it a little bit more clear. I don't think the initial screen was too unintuitive, but having it spelled out for you makes it a lot more user-friendly. And here is the new roster creation screen. So this is what happens when you click on list view. And again, this isn't something that was listed in the patch notes. This is something I've just found myself. And one thing I'm really happy about is the section on the right hand side here with add captain and add crew. You can add them in the order that you want. So now I can actually build my lists in roster order in Cinder cost. And I can sort them, so I can have it listed by how much Cinder they cost, and it's going to be a godsend for making easy to read lists. It's obviously not as easy as just having a sort button. I imagine that comes at some point, but this is going to be so much nicer for changing things in this respect. It may even have been this way before and I haven't noticed. It's entirely possible. In fact, it's probable, but I'm going to be using it regardless. Okay, the painting option. So another splash screen for the painting. Most importantly, using the Be Cool tag on the right hand side to make sure people don't have their paint job removed from the game. Don't do anything inappropriate, hateful. We're here to be happy, cheerful, lovely people pushing, like a lot of people say in some gaming communities, at the end of the day we're pushing plastic toy soldiers around a table. Here, we're not even got a table or plastic. We're just pushing digital toy soldiers around a digital tabletop. It's a great idea. We don't need to be too angry about it, so keep it cool and just enjoy the painting. Sink as many hours into it as I have. And once you've done that, here's the fun tool now that a lot of people have been asking for, the ability to share your paint jobs. So copying this link, it brings up this screen, so in a browser, and what you can actually do is you can fully rotate and zoom in on the model. So you can send this to anyone. They don't have to have Moonbreaker, they don't have to have anything whatsoever. You can literally just give them access to look at your painted models, and it's great for sharing with friends. I've already sent some to a couple of mine that don't play Moonbreaker to show them, look at what I've done, I'm proud of this and that sort of thing. Really great tool. It does, however, mean that all those parts of your model you thought nobody was ever going to see, now they are. So if you're one of those people that's been hiding things, you just think, no one's going to look at that angle, now they can. So better get painting all those nooks and crannies you thought you could leave to one side. And here we've got the game modes as well, so a little bit of clarity as to what each game mode is, what the rewards are, which is a nice touch because you want to know what you're getting out of each one. And then to follow that up, we've got a little bit more detail on cargo run the first time you enter as well. Brilliant. A cargo run needed a bit more explaining. Glad that it tells you the survive section, that things persist between rounds, because I think something a lot of people weren't necessarily aware of. So that's a little bit of a change on those fronts. Next, we've got the little sort of taglines on victory and defeat. So here we've got defeat, you conceded, and the other one we've mostly got is victory, your opponent's captain was killed. Again, just a nice way of clarifying how you won. Now what you might also notice is that this map is a little bit different to some that we've come across so far. This is the brand new map for this expansion, also for this update, and this is a Cholek excavation expansion. So for me, it feels like a really nice combination between the Cholek map and sort of a more smugglery style. There's people trying to gather these resources. You can see in the middle there's a truck with one of the eyes from the statues, and if you look in the sort of crevasse, there's some statues built into the walls. So the ones you're talking about in the earlier sort of note. These are the ones that the Cholek have created, the huge statues with glowing purple rocks. So I'm hoping this has got some sort of gameplay implication as well as story, but this seems like it might be an alternative to Cinder or something like that. And who knows, maybe we'll have another arms race or another sort of, like a Gold Rush style environment coming on in the future. So we've got a couple of different angles at the map. One thing to bear in mind is that the map, so it does have big open areas on either side, but the middle and the left and right, sorry, the top and bottom are the more open areas. The left and right have got these bridges, they've got these crevasses. You can't move over the crevasse, so you can see at the bottom right there it says impassable. So you can't move over it. And then in this corner here, you've got the other sort of spawn point. I'm assuming there might be more, but the game I played, we spawned at opposite ends. And if you look at this situation here, so obviously we know that aggro is a very prevalent part of the meta, but this tabletop, what you can see on screen here is probably just under half of the actual map itself. The map's huge, and with all these crevasses and bridges and that sort of thing, and each of those pillars around the bridges are actually hard cover. So while it doesn't stop you moving around and getting a decent angle a lot of the time, it provides that little bit more awkwardness for people to attack you from certain angles. So I actually think this is really, really powerful in terms of slowing down aggro lists, because not only do they have a lot further to move, things like Blindsider Esley, Antios Gauntlet, all the melee focus things are going to find it a lot harder to get into range, but also it just gives you that option of kiting around the impassable terrain. So if you look at the bottom, the bridge here, the AI placed a mine here, and I couldn't fit past that. So with only one mine on either side, without actually dealing with the mines themselves, they'd created a little fortress over there. So it was actually a situation where I thought, this is something that you could do in a real game. So there really is a lot more depth coming in the map design, and to me, this made it feel like a real tabletop miniatures game. This felt exactly how I wanted it to. It felt really skirmishy. It wasn't just here are some things in the way to make it, so that you've got... Basically, I didn't want it to just feel like you've got cover for the sake of cover, and that is just a thing to allow you to play the game. This feels more thematic, it feels more engaging. In the first game I've played on it, I've played a couple just sort of versus AI just to try it out. I think it was really like a really positive change, and I really, really love this style of design. I'd love to see what they could do with objectives here as well. I think it could be really interesting on that front too. So, great change overall, and really, really keen to see what's coming. So, we've got a couple more things to look at, and that's going to be the interactions that have been updated in the patch fixes, in the bug fixes, and we just want to see how those work, mostly around Broken Vengeance, who I love as a character, but unfortunately, none of these changes are good for him, but they're good for the units that work around him. So I'll be back in a moment to show you how that works. Okay, so we're back, and here is just going to be a little test to sort of show you how the new Broken Vengeance interactions work. So technically they're the same interactions, but they now work the way that they're fully intended all of the time. And given that not everyone knows about these, I really wanted to show it off. So the first one, I want to say first of all thank you to Bar for helping me make this little video. And the first one I want to show you is just how Tipu interacts with Broken Vengeance, and you can see this in action now. So as you see, Tipu's going to attack, it's got 3 damage, grows to 4, Broken Vengeance attacks back, attacks for 4, grows to 5, attacks back, attacks for 5. So Tipu now grows in between every single hit, which I believe at the end, previously what it used to do is actually used to chain back and forth, and then Tipu would grow at the end sometimes, whereas now it grows correctly between every single hit that happens. So that's exactly what's meant to happen. Tipu is going to grow at a much more rapid rate, and it's a really sort of a fun interaction. You know, you can kill the units a little bit quicker, especially Broken Vengeance specifically. And now we can move over to have a look at Beatrice and see what Beatrice does. So here we've lined up with Zax directly behind Beatrice. We're going to attack Broken Vengeance here, and we're going to see what happens. So as you look, we've got the hit, attack back, hit, attack back. It carries on a little chain. And what you'll notice here is that while Broken Vengeance has died, what we've actually done is we've also dealt 8 damage to Zax. So now the attack happens back and forward, including the AoE sort of the attack through with Beatrice. It appears that sometimes previously that wasn't always happening. Sometimes it was just going once at the end, whereas now it goes all the way through and interacts in that respect. So this is good if you've got enemies with grouped up units, or if you've got Vortex to group them up. My best is I managed to kill 2 units with Beatrice as well as Broken Vengeance, so it's not a common interaction. Not many people play Broken Vengeance. Beatrice is, you know, a little bit on the decline. I still love her. I'm probably going to try and find more ways to make her work, but genuinely, really, really good interaction and a really good fix for the game as well. So, all in all, I'm really excited for this patch. It wasn't as much of a balanced patch as we thought it might be, but they've brought in a lot of interesting things, a lot of quality of life changes. The game, just quality in general, I'd say, has taken it up another notch. So, really, really keen to see. Hopefully this will help people onboarding a little bit more, getting involved in the game, getting a little bit more excited like I am, and I'm really, really keen to see where things go from here. Hopefully I'll be able to get this uploaded very shortly. I can get straight into going onto a live stream, doing some painting, getting to share that paint scheme, and listening to Astra's story. Most importantly, other than all this, if you've enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. I'll be doing content for every patch, every change, every big thing coming. I've had daily content now coming up for the entire of Early Access and pretty much the entire playtest as well. And other than that, hit the like button, drop a comment, let me know what you think. Let me know if that roster view is something I've just been completely ignorant of and have ignored the whole time and could have been making my own life easier. It would be quite funny to find out that I'm wrong. But other than that, thank you very much for watching and have a good day.